Hi, everyone. My name is Nyemade, and I am the Diversity and Equity Fellow with NAMI, Delaware. Thank you for joining us for another Sharing Hope Community Conversations. Because it is March and Women's History Month, we are focused around the topic of women, specifically the strong Black woman trope. We all hear it all the time about being a strong Black woman, how we can conquer everything, take care of everything, do it all, but should we? I mean, that's really the question. Is it really a strength for us? Is it a hindrance? So I'm really excited to have some guests join today to answer those questions, and some people who I view as strong Black women, especially here in the community of Wilmington. So I have Miss Charlotte Miller-Lacy with me and Sade Truitt. Would the two of you like to introduce yourselves a little bit? We can start with Miss Charlotte.
Yes, good evening. Thank you for having me. I am Charlotte Miller-Lacy, and I am the founder and National Executive Director for I Am My Sister's Keeper.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Sade Truitt. Professionally, I work in government and politics, doing some political things with education, lobbying for education, but my heart and soul is mentoring teen girls. I do have a teen girls program called Girl Talk that I founded, oh my goodness, probably 10 years ago now. And we started with 16 girls, and now we're mentoring over 200 girls across the state of Delaware, just in really having conversations like this with them and encouraging them to be their best self. So I really enjoy that work. It brings me lots of joy. So thank you for having me tonight.
Absolutely. And I thought of both of you instantly when I was thinking of who to have as guests, because not only are you strong Black women who do so much, but you both work with girls who are going to become those women. So you have experience talking with them and helping them sort of develop and grow into that. I mean, off the bat, when you hear, oh, strong Black women, what does that make you think, or what does that make you feel? Either one can answer.
So when I think of a strong Black woman, I think of getting the job done. Whatever necessary to complete the task, whether it's raising a family, whether it's your profession, whether it's entertainment, that you're at the top of your game in doing what you do.
Yeah, I totally agree. When I think about a strong Black woman, I think about a resilient woman that no matter what life has brought her, that she always finds a way to stand back up even stronger. And so I think that it's sad that our society has placed the strong Black woman sometimes in a negative context. But for me, I was raised by a strong Black woman. I was raised by a woman that, a strong Christian woman. I'm blessed to have both parents in the home, but I was raised in a household where she taught me what it looks like to be resilient, she taught me what strength looks like. She taught me how to juggle the work-life balance by watching her. So I think when someone calls you strong, that's an attribute of who you are on the inside of you. So I think that being strong is just being resilient, that no matter what happens in life, life is going to happen. It hits us all in various ways, but when you get back up, when you stand back up, that's strength to me.
Absolutely. And hi, Totiyana. I'm so glad you're able to join us.
Hi, thank you. Sorry I'm late.
Oh, no, it's not a problem. We just did introductions and we were talking about, is it trope, the strong Black woman trope? I think I actually said troop earlier, the trope, the strong Black woman. But would you like to introduce yourself a little bit?
Hi, I'm Totiyana Douglas. I'm a licensed clinical social worker here in Delaware. I work as an outpatient mental health therapist. I also still work as a counselor in the middle school. So yeah, I like this topic though.
Yeah, this is perfect. And I was just asking them, when they hear, strong Black woman, what do you think when you hear that?
I hear two things. I hear Sade. So as Sade was saying, I hear also as a positive, but it's also just as a clinician, it's a shame how something that is a positive has now gotten to it looks like as a negative, it's how we're burdening and taking on too much, which is also a twofer, because then it's helping us realize, you know what, I don't have to carry everybody. I'm strong with just with the strengths that I have. And I'm strong with realizing my own self-awareness. There's things that I'm strong about without having to add everybody else. I don't have to take on more than what I can. So it's been a really good conversation, because it's you get to see the positive and negatives between the both.
Yeah, and that's what I think is the most interesting thing about it, because we hear it and we think all of those positives, like, they can take on so much, they're resilient, they're awesome, and those are all wonderful. But then it's almost like people use that as an excuse to put more on our shoulders than we should have to bear. Then, like, our burden is more than it should have to be, because, oh, you can take it, you can handle it. And a lot of times when people will describe them, especially I've noticed, like, with relationships, like, or not even relationships, like with men, if you hear them describe like their mothers, a lot of times, like the things they'll list are like the burdens their mother was able to take on and forge them through, not necessarily like them as just like a person. I don't know if you've ever noticed that. And I thought that that's very interesting, that that's sort of become the characteristics of who we are, is what burdens that we're able to take on to our shoulders.
I think that goes back to when we talk about our Black men. When you look at that they were going through so much, and even, through slavery or just coming through, and the different adversities that they went through, and the women had to hold the fort. So they had to keep things together, and that made them, okay, well, I gotta have this place for my man to come lay his head. He got to be safe. Our kids have to be safe. So I have to take this on because he is out here and he's under so much oppression and different things. So I have to be that strong woman. I have to be able to hold it together for everything and everybody. So, some of this is generational until you get to a certain part, and then you start looking like, and you start, wow, I can't carry all of this on my shoulders. I really can't. And not even the fact that I can't, I don't want to. It's like, I don't want to.
Yes. Sade, have you ever had a time where you've had to like acknowledge, not that you can't, but that you don't want to carry that burden? And how did you deal with that?
Absolutely. I believe that you teach people how to treat you. So if people see you always savior mode, doing everything, saying yes to everything, then when they ask you, they're going to expect for you to say yes. So I model to people how I want to be treated, what I'm able to handle. And I have learned since the pandemic, like, no is okay, and not no with the no because I have to, or no because it's no. I don't have the capacity for that. No, but I can ask Susan if she can help you with that. And so I think that you teach people how to treat you, how to love you, how to respect you. I'm sorry, Nami, what was your question though? I got tied up in that.
No, that my question was like, have you had a time where you've had to basically tell someone no? So you answered it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, recently, and to be honest, family is the hardest people. When you're making these boundaries changes, it's family that gives you the hardest time. It's, the people that you love, people that you want to be refuge, they give you the hardest time when you can't do something for them. And so I've learned that my no does not mean I don't love you. It doesn't mean that I don't want to help you. It doesn't mean that I don't think the world of you. It's saying that Sade does not have the capacity to help you, but I will partner you with somebody that can happen. If you love me enough, you're going to be okay with me saying, no, not right now, or I don't have the capacity for it. So I have learned, I am unapologetic these days in my ability to say no to whoever, because I realize that I have to take care of me. I have to make sure that I'm okay before I can pour out and give to anyone else, especially women like us who are being pulled in so many different ways. We're in different sectors. There's people coming at us at different angles. I mean, we have our jobs, we have ministry, we have people that we mentor, we have a life that we want to live. We want to go to the Bahamas and Europe for vacation, right? So It's like we have to make sure that we're taking care of us and make sure that we're constantly enjoying, because listen, this world is crazy. I mean, every time we turn on the news, somebody is ending their life. Somebody is on the edge. Somebody is about to have a breakdown. Somebody's going through something. And it goes back to us not taking care of ourselves. So I think that I am learning it's okay to say no. I have boundaries set in place to help protect that. And I no longer take it personal when the other person's upset. I'm sorry you feel that way. I'll see you next time.
Yeah. That was a very hard boundary for me that I had to learn and that I've worked with was saying no. Like, I would feel so bad. And now I've learned, like, no is a complete sentence. I don't have to give an explanation for why. And I've also, to help myself deal with saying no, like, I've realized that it's a benefit for both of us. Because if I say yes to something that I can't handle, then it may not get done, or it may not get done to the right capacity, and then I look bad. And I would much rather say no and have that person come to me another time for something else than say yes and do it poorly, and then they don't want to deal with me anymore. So now I say no for both of our benefits. But boundaries are very hard to set up. Totiyana, when you have your patients, what are some ways or some advice that you give them for helping to set up those boundaries?
So that's a good one, because I was just about to say all this ties into boundaries. It's just like how you want people to treat you. And one of the, like you said, like Nyemade, one of the things you said was like, no is a complete sentence. That is one of the things I do teach them. No is a complete sentence. And also just other assertive communications. Like, I'm not able to do that, but you know what? I'll be able to do that on Friday. Or, just having a way to communicate where you're not being passive. You're not just be like, oh, it's okay, when it's really not okay. Or being aggressive, like, didn't I tell you that I said that it, like, where you better be like, hey, actually, I'm not available that day. And leave it right there. I think sometimes I feel like when we don't do it that way, we give people feel like they have access to our time. Be like, well, why can't you make it? That's none of your business. I just can't make it because I don't have to explain why I can't make something. The invitation is a yes, no, maybe. And it doesn't require me to just say, explain further like we're on an essay. It just means that I'm just protecting my space. And so that's one of the ways I tell people to have set your boundaries. Also, just kind of be in tune of what triggers you. So if somebody might make comment about your hair, or somebody may comment about how you dress, and maybe you're trying something new, maybe you try a different style for yourself, make sure that you don't look for people's opinions as a completion to you, just as a compliment. Compliments are just supposed to compliment you, but they're not meant to complete you. So that's another way of saying your boundaries is being identified what triggers you. Like if you're noticing like you really get irritated in this area, then that means that somebody violated your boundary. So it's good to be like, hey, like, I don't think you meant to say it that way, but that's where I teach the boundary, is by communicating. Because if you don't communicate your boundaries, people are not gonna know how to respect you in that manner, or know that that's something that you really take seriously, or that they violated you because you have allowed them to pursue that behavior for so long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
That is true, but that's in learning that as you're coming up to learn those things.
Mm-hmm.
We work with a lot of young girls, and when you're coming up, you were growing up, it's you answer questions.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean you don't want to do that? Why don't you want to do that? So we're programmed to do that. As we become adults, then it's like, we have to be reprogrammed again. No, I don't want to do that. No is it's complete. I didn't feel right when you said that to me. But as a young girl or a youth coming up and you're saying things like that, then you're being disruptive, or you're not, being respectful to adults. These type of things are taught. So as you are a young girl, to change those dynamics around, and when you have groups like I Am My Sister's Keeper or Girls Talk, and they're learning this early, so now when they get in their 20s and 30s and whatnot, it's not like, oh, I can't, now I can say it. I'm already saying it. I'm already asserting myself. So you hear me. I'm a strong woman.
Respectful. Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's so powerful you said that, because in the workplace, as a girl who I was raised as a church girl, and we were raised, like Ms. Charlotte said, you do whatever you're told to do.
Yes, ma'am.
Like that.
Yes,
even to this day, and my mom asked me to do something, I'm still trying to stumble and fumble and trying to figure it out, because that's how we were raised. But when you go into the workplace and we get into positions where now we are the leader challenging the other leader, sometimes that strong Black woman gets afraid, because it's like, I was taught never to challenge my boss. I don't understand. I don't want to ask for clarifying questions, because of that little girl in your mind that's telling you that this is authority figure and you don't challenge it. So that's so true, that we have to unlearn that that ability to say, you know what, I want to challenge you in a respectful way. I want to ask a question about this, or no, I'm not doing that. No, that's not good. That's not what I'm going to do to get to this end goal. But it's so true, because even in my matriculation and my career field, leading a school and being a teacher and now doing other things, I think in my most recent role has been the most challenging, because I'm like, how do I challenge the one that's the most powerful in the room, right? How do I challenge the one that holds the power for a lot of our state decisions? How do I challenge that and not come off disrespectful, but at the same time, you're not going to play me. You're not going to talk to me any kind of way because you got some power and a little bit of influence. Let's get some things established. But that little church girl is always trying to be like, oh, how do we maneuver through that? But there's a way to still respectfully say, I am here, I'm present, without being dogmatic and having to, go below the belt. But that's a great point, trying to unlearn that's something you learn when you're a girl.
Yeah, and I think we all are so programmed to be obedient. And something that took me a minute to learn is that there's a difference between being nice and being kind, and that you don't always have to be nice to be a kind person. Like, you don't always have to say yes and people please and do like the niceties, and saying no doesn't make you an unkind person. But for the longest time, that's what I thought. So I thought, well, I just have to say yes and I just have to accept it. And it was nice learning that you could grow out of that and say no. But I did find that as I got into corporate, part of what held me back was a little bit of what you're saying, the church girl mentality of like, just say yes and just respect authority figures. But also I was so afraid of being assigned the angry Black woman. I feel like as Black women, it's such like, we barely get wiggle room on that. Like, the minute you're not smiling, the minute you're standing up for yourself, you've gone from being just like, oh, the happy person to the angry person, just because you have like a little bit of bass in your voice, or you're being more like authoritative. Miss Charlotte, like, have you dealt with that? And how'd you navigate that?
Actually, yes, of course. How did I navigate that? I quit. I quit. I actually quit. It was a situation where, as you said, your manager or whatnot was just in that back and forth thing. And it was like this total disrespect. And, I questioned something.
Mhm.
And it was like, how dare you? Like, you just need to do what I asked you to do. Like, wait a minute. Like, hold on. You're talking to an adult. There is a way that we can talk to each other. And she just was not having it. And I'm like, listen, I am not that one that you're going to sit here and just talk to me any old kind of way. And I think she had threw something across the desk to me. And I'm like, you know what? This is it. I'm out of here. So I quit. It was that was that situation.
That's definitely one. What about you, Sade?
Shanae Darby, Councilwoman Shanae Darby helped me with this, because Shanae and I had a conversation, because Shanae is so bold and so out front.
She is.
She gonna say it. She don't care. And so one day we had a conversation. She said, Shanae, it doesn't matter what you say, how you say it, when you say it. There's gonna be certain rooms you're always gonna be the angry Black woman, and that's just what it is. And so it's your responsibility to never take that thing personal. Going with your good intentions, going with your pure heart. But she said, I've released myself from just feeling like I have to always go in and kind of disarm them. Like, I am who I am. And so when we had that conversation probably like 2 or 3 years ago, I really have taken that. And so I laugh when that comes up in conversation. Sometimes I'm like, wow, it's a shame that we can't be passionate and vocal about who we are, because, the beautiful thing is watching Ketanji Brown. I mean, I watched her, I couldn't watch the confirmations because I was getting emotional and so upset, but I watched my girl with so much poise and so much excellence and so well put together, and still the angry Black woman. So it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, we can't win. So we just have to know that I don't ascribe to that. I don't even let that even enter into my world. And when people make comments like that, I really do just ignore them. And I say, oh, bless your heart. I'm sorry you feel that way, but that's not who I am.
Sade, I like the word you say, disarm.
Mm-hmm.
They go in, then you have to disarm, like what?
Because it feels like that sometimes. Like, you have to sort of dismantle like their preconceived notions of who you are, just to get to the base level of them understanding you and actually listening to what you're saying, not what they think they're hearing based on what they see. Totiyana, what are like some ways? I love that Sade said that she has sort of worked past that, taking that on and taking the personal feelings. What are some ways that that someone who maybe is at the beginning of that journey could work on, so that they don't take on the preconceived notions or the perceptions of other people onto them?
I think the beginning stages of it, I think it's funny, because I think just at any stage of it, like kind of what the other two women are saying, like you got to get into a development of like, like be aware of, like Ms. Charlotte said, what you're taught. And then, but then also get to the point where Sade said, like, okay, this is what I was taught, but this time, like, clearly what I was taught, this ain't working for me right now in this setting. And so now I got to change it up. And now I gotta figure it out, because a lot of times, so even like with my personal example, I had a combination. Like I'm kind of like, my story is like in the middle of both of their stories. So like I had like, you know, certain professionals like talking down at me, like as if like my role was like real minimal. And I was like, no, like that's not okay. Like we're not doing that. Like you're gonna talk to me with some respect. Like I'm not a child, even though I might be younger than you, but that doesn't make me a child. And then also, but then I wasn't in a position to quit at that time, but also nothing was getting thrown at me either. So, but at the same time, I was, how I navigated in the beginning stages of that was just like, you know what? I'm not going to allow these people to define me who I am. I got to remember why I came and why I'm in this position, and that these people do not define where I'm going or how I'm going to do it. I don't care what role they hold, but they don't hold a role, that high a role in my life. And so once I understood that, I was like, you know what? Let me put my boundaries in place. So now I'm like, I'm not as accessible to you. When I respond, I take my time responding to you, because I'm not going to allow you to think that you have authority of my time, my presence, or think that your existence is going to impact my existence. And so when I'm working with somebody that is in that stage of their life, I help them realize, why are you there? What is your why? What are you aware? How do you feel in this situation? What are your triggers? What do you know about yourself that you know that you need to navigate from there? And then there we can help customize a plan that works for you to either stay and hopefully get you out, because that's pretty much what I did. I did end up leaving, of course, because again, but I had to stay where I had to do, because I had to unlearn, but also then learn the skills I needed to maintain, because I can't run from everything either. Not saying nobody ran, but I'm just saying, like, I have to realize these are things that are issues I'm going to have to deal with as I progress in my career. So I need to know how I can handle that within myself. Sorry, I was getting passionate about it.
No, that's good. We love the passion.
Part of that is when when you know who you are, like when people put those labels on you, you just kind of like whatever. Like, you know, I know who I am. I know my heart is good. I know my intentions are pure. I know I'm a hard worker. I know I'm the baddest chick in the game. So you can think whatever you want to think about Sade, but I know who I am. And when I go home at night and lay my head on my pillow, I have to be okay with what decision or whatever is said. So I think that and that comes with maturity as a woman, that as you go through life and as you go through life situations and as you go through different careers and jobs, that like Totiyana said, you can't, like, there's going to be some lessons that you have to go through to get to it. And I think that when life experiences teaches you those things, you begin to brush off some of the labels that the world will put on you, because you have to know who you are. That is what I'm really firm on that with my girls. It's like, if you don't know who you are, anybody can put a label on you. And wish-washy people, they never grow. They never get anything accomplished. They're always going to be moved by someone saying something. And I refuse to raise up women that are 40 and 50, 60 and 70 who are still moved by someone calling you the angry Black woman. Who cares? So what? That's how you feel today. That's how you feel today. Sis, be great. But I know who I am. I know who my name is. I know who I belong to. I know who loves me. And that is why we as strong women have to have a village around us, that when the camera goes off and the curtains are closed, you have your strong village that is pouring life back into you. We cannot do life by ourselves. So when we do have that moment, we're like, girl, I was in the meeting today with the city council, they called me an angry Black woman, and your girlfriend's like, girl, bye, anybody think about them, come meet me for a glass of wine, or we going to Florida next week. You have that village to support you so you can shrug that stuff off, so we can't do life alone. But I think when you know who you are, I don't care what they're calling you. What Medea said in that movie, I don't care what they call you. You know what your name is and you answer to that. And if you're struggling with your identity, that is self-work that you have to do. You got to go to your counselor. You got to get on your knees and pray. You got to find some good people around you, because if you're struggling by what people are calling you, and listen, we all been there. I am not removed from that, only by the grace of God. We've all been there. But I think that you have to know who you are, because you'll miss what life wants to give you because we're stuck in our feelings.
For reach. But yes, no, you are absolutely correct. And I feel like for me, that's when I really like identified my crossover into womanhood. It wasn't when I was 18. It was actually in my later 20s when I finally got to the point where I'm like, I don't care what people think. Like, I am who I am. And when I got to the point where I realized like so much of what other people say about you says way more about them than it does about you. Like, I would get in my feelings, like if I would do something for someone and they'd be like, oh, you're doing it for this reason, or oh, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no. And I would think like, is that what I'm giving off? Like I'm trying to be genuine. And then I learned like they're thinking that that's my motive because that would be their motive. Like that's not on me. And I don't have to wear that burden. And then like you said, like knowing your voice and knowing who you are is important because as you get older, people are constantly going to put their stuff on you and you have to be able to hear your voice stand out in a crowd of other voices trying to pour in. And that's why I love, like the mentorship thing you do. And that's why I do the Confidence Club with Miss Miller-Lacy, because the earlier I feel like girls get that, and the
oh my God, I
earlier they
love
have
that.
that
The Confidence Club. I love it.
You should join us one day. It's the first Saturday of every month.
I love that.
Yes. Okay, we'll stay in touch. We'll have you come in with us one day. But yeah, so we do different confidence building activities with the girls. And because I feel like the earlier you get that, the earlier you have that true sense of yourself, then the rest of it is just extra noise. And it doesn't mean that you always think you're the baddest or the best, because I don't always, but it means that like, even on a day or in an area where I feel like slightly insecure about stuff, I know that it's something that I work on within me, not what other people think or not how I compare. Like I don't walk through life comparing myself to everyone. And I think a lot of people, even like the most gorgeous people, the most successful people, that insecurity comes from comparing themselves to other people. And the minute they're put in a situation where they don't feel like they're better than somebody else or more whatever, then suddenly it's a problem. But if you have that confidence within yourself, it doesn't matter what's going on around you. Like you feel good by yourself, or if it's something you need to work on, it's something you need to work on, but you don't feel like you're less than other people just because you have something that you have to work on. So I was going to ask Miss Charlotte. I keep going back and forth between calling you Miss Charlotte and Miss Miller-Lacy. When you are working with the girls, because you started the I Am My Sister's Keeper to sort of try to help bring up the girls and raise them to find that confidence and their spot in the world. What was it that really led you to start it?
So I was working in alternative placement, and some of the girls were coming in and out of the program. It was like a revolving door. And one day I just said, what's going on here? Why are you back? And we had a conversation. And out of that conversation, of course, they didn't know who they were. They were really fighting themselves because they would say, well, she said this and she said that. And pretty much what we were talking about, just people moving them around like chess pieces. And I said, listen, what you're doing, do you identify with what they're calling you? No, Miss Lacy, I don't. Well, either you identify with it, and that's okay if you do, because you can do things to change the trajectory. You can do something, but first you got to understand why you're doing it. And the reason is because you don't know who you are. You don't know who you are. So we have to help them. I always say, people say, well, I'm empowering someone. I'm like, how do you empower someone? You can give them tools, you can give them resources to empower themselves. And that's what I Am My Sister's Keeper is about, giving tools, resources to empower yourself. So what I did was I invited women, just pretty much like yourselves, who quote successful women. And I said, listen, I understand you have this impressive resume, you're a doctor, this, teacher, lawyer, whomever. I need the authentic woman to come in and sit down and talk with our girls and really let them know how you got to where you are, because you had someone. This mentorship thing is real. I was raised by a village of women. And I may not have taken the advice all the time, but it stuck. Different things stuck. And when I was at different points in my life, I could pull from it. I was like, okay, here's that jewel. I remember her saying that. I remember this. I remember that. That's where I Am My Sister's Keeper came from. It's a mentoring effect. It's a stacking effect where we have women in that pour in the girls at all levels. I love what Michelle Obama said about becoming. I tell them I am 63 years old and I'm still becoming. I'm still finding out who Miss Lacy is. And it's phenomenal. I love it. I love the discovery. And I love to see when a girl pretty much says, wow, that's what I want to do. This is where I find my niche. I like doing this. And that comes through exposure and opportunities. You cannot sit in the same place be with the same people and experience. So you have to move. There has to be some movement. There has to be some resources or people there that help you see a different way. And that's what we supply for the girls.
And I think that that's so important as we grow up and transition from girls to women, is having those people, you know, that we can see, because you can have dreams, but if you don't really have representation,
That's right.
you don't really see it, it's harder to make that happen. And even just having someone, you know, to talk to. I know today that's part of how your mentorship came about, right? Like you were just talking with the girls and realized it was something that they needed more often. Oh, you muted.
Yeah, that's really how it came about. I was a school leader at the time at a Title I charter school. And honestly, a Title I charter school is a school that's a poverty school. So 98% of my students were Black, and they're being serviced by people that did not look like them. So for them to see a Black woman in leadership, not someone in a different capacity, but a Black woman in leadership coming and to help them, they were just kind of like, wow, who are you? You know, we want to talk to you. And so I couldn't commit. I was so busy trying to ensure that the school stayed open that I didn't have time throughout the school day to meet with the girls. So I said, you know what, girls, just come on. I'm gonna open the school on Saturdays. We'll come in on Saturdays. I'll order some pizza. We'll hang out in the gym and we'll just talk. And every Saturday for a year, we did just that. Every single Saturday for a year, we did that. And so the program grew from 6 girls, 30 girls, and then the whole school, every girl in the school wanted to be a part of Girl Talk, so we made it part of the curriculum. So then Girl Talk was a part of the curriculum, and to this day, I haven't been in that position in years, but it's still standing. I go visit the school, and they're still doing Girl Talk, and it gets me so excited. And so we just saw a need, and we met that need, and then from that, you know, God has opened up so many tremendous doors for Girl Talk to do so many incredible things across our state and other states. And I'm just so honored that to be chosen for that, because I wasn't the girl in middle school that was confident. I wasn't the girl in middle school that knew who she was. I wasn't the girl in middle school that had a lot of friends. I'm the only girl. I have 2 brothers. And so I was raised, my mom and dad, you know, my dad was in the military. He was gone 9 months out the year. My mom was raising us by herself, you know, while he was gone. And all she knew was Jesus. And so that's all we did was go to church. And I thank God for it now. Being 33, on the other side, I tell my girls all the time, you may not understand your mom being hard on you now, but when you get to the other side and you holding on to your master's degrees and your success, and you go home to your own house, you got your baby, you'll understand it by and by, as they tell us. So I wasn't raised in that type of environment where there was a lot of women mentors around me. I didn't have a sister. I longed for a sister, but I had my church family, and that's what kept me. But in that, I wasn't taught about relationships. I wasn't taught about how to love myself. I wasn't taught about, you know, I see a boy and I have feelings for him. What do I do with that? I was just taught, don't come home pregnant, and I'm not picking you up from jail. That was it. That was all I knew. And I stuck to the plan. I stuck to the plan. I said, okay, I will stick to the plan. But there was other questions as a young girl, I'm sure you all can experience it, that I had. And so to make a long story short, I went through a terrible breakup when I was in college, and I should have lost, the doctor said, I should have lost my mind. I shouldn't even be here today, because I almost had a nervous breakdown. And when I got off that floor from that nervous breakdown, when I was 23 years old, I promised myself and I promised God that every single young woman that I ever encountered, I don't care if I met her in the grocery store, I don't care if I met her on the track field, I don't care if I met her on the airplane, that every single girl that I ever encountered, that she would know her worth, her value. And that was way before Girl Talk even came into existence. I'd made a promise to myself and God that, and he doesn't. And then life happens and Girl Talk came about. And so I'm so excited to do that work, because I think that, you know, our girls need to see us. They need to see the representation does matter, and they need to see our scars and to see that, you know what, you know, Sade has done well in life. You know, I'm very blessed. I'm grateful for all that has happened, but I had to go through some things and continually go through things that, you know, you mature and you get through it by and by. But I think the thing that has been my anchor is I know who I am on a bad day, because I won't let anybody else take that from me. Because at 23, I almost lost my mind over some clown, over somebody I ain't thinking about him. I ain't thinking about him. He's somewhere doing whatever he's doing, looking for me. Don't look for me. But I almost lost my mind. And so I just told myself that not another boy, woman, girl, nobody would have that much power over me, that I would know that I was anchored first in my faith, and second in the ability that Sade is. Because before the world was formed, I tell my girls all the time, before the world was formed, that there was already a plan and destiny for your life. So you don't have time to waste it. You don't have time to be thinking less of yourself, because your obedience to your destiny is opening the doors for the other woman. That there's some women and girls that would never listen to Sade, but there's somebody waiting on Juanita. There's somebody waiting on Jackie. There's someone waiting on Miss Charlotte. There's someone waiting on Totiyana to do what it is she's supposed to do so that they can be the best person ever. And so that is why we have to know who we are, because somebody's waiting on you. Somebody's waiting on you to love yourself enough to say, I'm ready. And it can be a knitting club. It can be a scrapbooking club. It can be a walking club. It can be a girl talk. It can be I and my sister keep, whatever your portion is. There's some young girl, there's some woman waiting on you to love yourself, to get healed, to get free, so that she can be the best she had. Had I not stepped into my greatness, there are 279 girls that would have never knew what self-love and self-worth was. So all that stuff I went through, all that heartbreak I went through, I did it for them. It was never even about Sade. There was 279 girls that needed to know my story so that they can be free. My girls are in Spelman. My girls own businesses. My girls call me and tell me the great things that they're doing. They're philanthropists. One of my girls is in New York right now. One of my girls is working for Jay-Z. And this is not to boast, but it's like when they found out who they were, when they aligned with that purpose, and they got around someone that was, y'all can, I'm the hype man, I'm the cheerleader. When they got around someone that was going to encourage them, they were like, Delaware, baby, there's so much life beyond this, and I want you to see it. So that's how Girl Talk came about, and we're still doing Girl Talk, and I'm excited to do Girl Talk. I'm ready to take it to, I have a vision for the next level of it, so I'm excited about it. So that's how it started, and that's where we are now.
I'm sure whatever your vision is with your passion, that it will happen. I can't wait to see
I
what
said,
it
God,
grows to.
I need a six. I said, God, come on, I need a 7-figure budget for this, but I know it's gonna happen.
Yes. And something that Ms. Charlotte said, and you said as well, is that you never know where you're going to get those gems from. And a lot of times people feel hesitant. Well, I'll speak for myself. I used to feel hesitant about saying stuff because I'm like, I'm not saying anything someone else hasn't already said. Like, what am I bringing that's new to the table? But at the end of the day, what I'm bringing to the table is me. I can give other people the recipe, but I have the secret sauce. And maybe the way that you say something may not resonate with someone, but the way that I say something might. And you never know when you're speaking to someone, especially younger girls, it may not seem like it clicks right then, but it may click later. Like, I've had so many conversations in my life with older women, like my advisor in college. We had one long conversation. And when I tell you how many aspects of my life have been because Sarah said this during this and she said that, and she probably doesn't know how much she impacted my life with that one conversation. But you never know when your one conversation with a girl or with someone else will impact her, whether it's in that moment or when they call back on it later. Like you were saying with your mom, like, I now realize my mother is just brilliant. But back in the day, I was just rolling my eyes at everything she said. Because, okay, mom, you don't know, mom. But now I'm like, oh, that woman knows everything. And I'm quoting her every 5 minutes. So you just have to keep putting it out there because other people will pick it up. I did want to ask another question, though, with Totiyana, as far as like the strong Black woman thing, because something that I find that's frustrating is we get that trope, like, oh, they're the strong Black woman. But at the same time, it feels like it's so hard for us to fight to get the respect that we need and that we deserve, right? There's always saying like the most disrespected woman in America is the Black woman. And yeah. I know for me in corporate, what would be frustrating is it feels like we don't get the respect that we need. Like, we have to work extra hard for it. But when there's a crisis, who do they look for? Like, who is the first people they want to come to rescue them is us. And I find it frustrating. I don't know if you find it frustrating or if I've dealt with it or have had clients deal with it.
Yeah, I've dealt with it. No matter, it's one of the most frustrating things because it's like, I looked at it at one point, like, you want me to pick up the trash. And unfortunately, the trash is my own people. It's like, so for example, like my background, I spent a lot of my time in hospital social work. So I was in the hospital a lot with pediatrics. And I remember people being like, when it came to like, when I was trying to be like, hey, the mental health, the environment, people was like, no, doctor such and such already said blah, blah, blah. But then when it came to, oh, mom and dad are arguing because they don't know how to take care of. One, you don't know if they don't know how to take care of it, but putting the N, it's only an NG tube. That's something minor. That's something huge for somebody's child who does not know what that is. It may be minor to you, but we can't minimize that. So to help with my frustration, what I would do is be like, you know what? God, I'm frustrated. But you know what, God, I'm so glad you placed me here, because I'd rather be their social worker than have a counterpart of mine be their social worker. They would not have understood their experience. It could have been overwhelming. So even in the midst of my frustration, I found my purpose as to where I was placed in that position at that time. And that's what the advice I give people is like, yeah, don't be wrong. Like, it's a lot of things we gotta like take the hit on, but when I stop looking at them and start looking at me and what I'm doing, and I looked at it now, I created like a mantra, like, I don't care what the people that I might work with care about me. I care about how the people that I serve, what position that I am, care about me. As long as the people that I serve are satisfied or feel like they got what they needed, because as Sade said, like, our purpose is attached to someone else's purpose. Like, we all have to unpack in order to help somebody else unpack. So yes, I'm thankful that I was there for that person. Yes, I took a hit on that, but I got a much, 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 much more bigger blessing out of that than the hit that I took. So it's really all about just that reframing and challenging like those negative thoughts, because I could have went negative, like, man, I'm only here because I'm Black and they want me to help with the Black people. No, I'm here, you know why? Because my people need me, and and this place need me too, whether they want to admit it or not. But guess what? The more you keep calling on me to clean up, then ever you're gonna see. When I took a day off, guess who they missed? Me. Because listen, I'm going on vacation. Y'all, you going for a week? Absolutely. The whole week. 2 days I sleep. The other 5 I was on vacation, but I don't care. But I took that time, and that's just really what again, I try to say, because sometimes when you talk, it may sound minimal to people. Be like, well, then, how do I get to that point? It really is just you just realizing and just being like, you know what? I can't keep functioning like this no more. I don't have to keep functioning in this chaos. I could find peace in this chaos. And the peace, it really is with you. If people are not going to change who they are, I could change who I am when I coexist with them. So how I coexist with people is different now. And I might be like, you know what? I use what I know about people to my advantage. If I know this person going to come in, I'm already prepared for you, because you ain't going to have me rubbed the wrong way. I'm be like, oh, okay, all right. But I'm gonna keep it moving, because that's the only way that we can function. So yeah, it's frustrating. Yeah, it becomes a lot, but that why and understanding your self-awareness, that's where you get all the lessons from, and that's when you learn so much more about yourself. Where you start getting unfazed by certain things. Certain things, you're always going to be triggered in certain aspects, but how you let the trigger redirect you is going to be different.
Yeah, I think something that was huge in learning for me is what you said, like, you can't control other people, but you can only control the way you act. And right now, like, the only thing I want in my life is peace, and whatever helps me get to that peace is what I want. And so, like, even simple things like someone cutting me off in traffic, where I would normally be like, oh, like, and now I'm grumpy from my ride and I'm venting. Now I'm like, maybe they're a new driver. Maybe they're an old lady. Like, whatever I have to tell myself to bring myself back to a place of peace and keep it moving is what I do, because you can't control certain things, but you can control how you feel about certain things and how you react to certain things.
And just something to add to it too. There's no price for my peace. My peace is priceless. You can't buy it. You can't rent it. You can't lease it. It's my peace. So you know how you got, everybody live in Delaware, right? Or mostly. But you know how now on 95, like on 95, they got the cameras now where like production zone. So I now know where the camera's at, because I got my warning ticket. And it wasn't an official ticket, but I got the warning, right?
Yeah.
So now I'm driving 45 up. Everybody like, what you doing? The camera not even there. I'm like, yes, until you get that letter. But guess what, baby? You go right around me, because it only takes one letter from me. Because I'm on the window because you try to rush me. Then listen, you gotta go to hurry. You could afford that ticket. You go right ahead. You have a good rest of your day, because that's just how you just gotta do it. There's no price on your peace.
Absolutely.
I agree with that, with your piece, when you're saying no price on it. I had a situation last week. Each week I'll send out inspirational quotes to our girls, just, get their week started or something. And I sent one out to one of the girls, and she texted me back and she said, Miss Lacy, I really needed that. Thank you. Thank you so much. She said, I have a test today, and, I'm feeling anxious. I have anxiety. I'm just, just not feeling it. I probably should just walk out of school. I'm like, whoa, what's going on? She said, well, I had an argument with my mom last night, and it was just crazy. And then she wasn't speaking to me today, and I needed something for her, and she was just shoving me off, and I had to leave out of the house. She said, I really needed that. So I had to go on Facebook, and I said, listen, moms, listen, sometimes we get caught up in our own stuff, but our children need peace too. You don't know what you're sending them out into the world into. They need peace too. So you need to call your daughter, text her or something, and say something positive to her to help her bring about that peace. That mom is not talking to her. So you can let her know, I didn't like what you did or what you said, but I still love you.
Yeah.
You're still important. Give her that peace, because she was all over the place. So when you talk about that peace of mind, it's for everybody. It's for youth. And I think as adults, we just kind of hold that for ourselves. But when we look at, the environment now and everything that's going on, we need that for our children as well.
Absolutely. We're going to wrap up the recording part of this in just a moment. But before we do, as we talk about peace, I think when we combine the whole trying to find peace with being strong Black women, something that's vital is finding that balance, right? Mm-hmm. Finding the balance that lets you achieve that peace. So I was actually going to ask you, Ms. Charlotte, because you do so much, you encompass so many things, business owner, mother, grandmother, all of that stuff. Like, how do you find balance in there that allows you to be the strong Black woman, but still have the vulnerability that you need, and to also find like that balance?
I pray. Not on here. I pray. I pray. Listen, hey, before my feet hit the floor, it's like, Lord, direct my path, direct my mouth, what comes out of it, how I work with people, how I talk with people every day. And then I do self-care. I take care of me. I make it a priority. Like I'm scheduling everybody else, I schedule in me. And I was starting to get away from it a little bit. Tuesdays are my self-care day. And, some people will call them, Miss Lacy, can you? I'm like, oh, okay, all right. But then I get the people that say, oh, I'm not going to call you because I know today is your self-care day. And I'm like, wait a minute, you're reminding me, you're right. I'm going back to, no, I can't do that on that day. Tuesday is my self-care day. However I want to do it, or do or not do anything, it's for me. And that's my piece.
That day thing is really important, because I, for a while, and I need to get back to it, because that reminds me, I need to get back to it, because I always dreaded Mondays. Like Mondays are like, ugh. And then I have like my day job and then all of my other stuff that I do in the evenings. So for a while I had made Monday my day where I do nothing after work. Like that was my me day. And it actually helped me Monday become a day that I look forward to, because I was free in the evening, and I got away from that. But I think I definitely need to bring that back, because it is nice just having that one thing. Today, how do you find peace and balance?
Definitely my faith. Definitely that, Ms. Charlotte, I'm right there with you. Definitely my faith. God knows. But my mornings are non-negotiable. So like for me, after I have my prayer time, I go boxing or for a walk or something of that nature. I kind of do the slow morning thing, so that way I don't like to go into my day rushed or go into my day frantic, because then that sets me up for all kind of stuff. So definitely for that. But also Sundays are my self-care day. So after church, I kind of just do me, whatever me looks like. And it can look like laying down all day. It can look like going to the spa. It can look like whatever, even down to family dinners. If I don't feel like going that particular Sunday, we have family dinners on Sundays. We meet at my mom's house. If I don't feel like going that Sunday, I don't go. And it's no love lost. Love y'all, put the plate by the door. I'll get with y'all later. But, I have to take that time to fill my cup, because I know how hectic my weeks can be. So definitely, for sure. Definitely. I also believe that you also have something to look forward to every week. So whether that's lunch with a friend, dinner with a friend, you go out of town for overnight, I think that you should always have something you should look forward to in your week. So that way, as the week is going and the hustle is going, you're like, man, on Friday I get to hang out with my family, or on Friday I get to go kart riding. But definitely that self-care day I'm right there with you. And some days it changes. I used to be so rigid, like it can only happen on Sunday. No. Some days it happens on Friday. Some day it happens in the middle of the week, but I make sure that at least one day in that 7-day span, all right, sis, shut it down, get some rest, do what you need to do for you, because that's important. You got to fill yourself up, however you fill yourself up. Don't let these Instagram people fool you. It's not always a bubble bath. It's not always $1,000 trip. It's not always all of that. Whatever your soul needs for refreshing, do that. For me, it's sleep. I want to go lay down. Like, so fill your cup up the way that you need to be filled up, not according to what culture, society think.
I love that. Well, I can't thank the three of you enough for joining us. For those who are on the call, we're going to continue the conversation, but we're going to turn the recorder off so that way if anyone who's in there wants to share anything about their journey, their piece, or anything, they have the ability to. So if you're watching this later on YouTube, it's the fourth Friday or the last Thursday, the last Thursday of each month. You can join us and we have different topics. Next month, our topic is going to be about caregivers and how, how life is with that, dealing with being a caregiver, having a caregiver. So we would definitely love for you to join us for that. But for now, have a great evening.